The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a soft hiss. Do-hyun walked through them with steady steps, his dark suit crisp and professional. Behind him, Mirai carried a data tablet containing Earth's proposal. The chamber was enormous, with curved walls that seemed to stretch up forever. Hundreds of alien species filled the seats, their eyes fixed on the human delegation. This was humanity's big moment. After 150 years since first contact with alien life, Earth finally had a chance to join the major powers of the galaxy. They needed just one thing: a trade agreement with the Veltharan Empire for rare minerals that could power humanity's growing fleet of starships. Do-hyun had prepared for this meeting for 6 months. He studied Veltharan history, learned their customs, and even commissioned gifts that honored their ancient traditions. He knew this meeting was important. The Veltharans controlled the richest mineral deposits in 3 star sectors. Without their cooperation, humanity's expansion into space would slow to a crawl. Queen Valara entered the chamber like a moving piece of art. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, with skin that looked like living crystal. It shifted colors as she walked, flowing from deep purple to brilliant silver. Her robes dragged behind her, and 12 attendants followed in perfect formation. The Veltharans were an old race. Their civilization had existed for 40,000 years. They had built wonders that humans could barely understand. The queen sat on her throne at the center of the chamber. It was carved from a single piece of star crystal, a material that no longer existed anywhere in the known galaxy. She looked at Do-hyun the way someone might look at an insect that had wandered into their home, curious but not particularly interested. Do-hyun bowed in the Veltharan style, his hand over his heart, his head lowered for exactly 3 seconds. Not too long, not too short. He had practiced it 100 times, Your Majesty, he began, his voice clear and respectful. On behalf of the Colonial Federation of Earth, I thank you for this audience. Humanity comes before you with an open hand and an open heart. He presented Earth's proposal. It was fair, even generous. Humanity would pay premium prices for mining rights. They would share new agricultural techniques that could help feed Veltharan colonies. They would provide military support if the Empire ever needed it. Everything was documented, verified, and checked by the best lawyers Earth could offer. Do-hyun spoke for 15 minutes. He made his case carefully, pointing out how both civilizations could benefit. He showed respect at every turn. When he finished, he stepped back and waited for the Queen's response. The chamber was silent. Queen Valara leaned forward on her throne. Her crystalline skin shifted to a dark red color. Do-hyun had read enough about Veltharan biology to know what that meant. Contempt. You humans, the Queen said, her voice carrying easily through the massive chamber, are children playing at civilization. Do-hyun felt his stomach tighten, but he kept his face neutral. The Queen continued, rising from her throne. Your species has existed for mere moments in cosmic time. You war among yourselves constantly. You poisoned your own homeworld and nearly destroyed it. You fight over resources, over beliefs, over things that matter so little in the grand scope of the universe. And now you come before ancient powers, begging for scraps like a hungry animal. Other alien delegations shifted in their seats. Some looked uncomfortable. Others nodded in agreement. The Veltharans were powerful, and many species were afraid to disagree with them. Why should we dignify your primitive existence with our attention? Queen Valara asked. Your kind will burn out like a dying star before you learn even a fraction of what we have forgotten. You bring us nothing of value. You offer us nothing we need. You are chaos wrapped in ambition, and chaos has no place in civilized society. The words hung in the air like poison. Every camera in the chamber was recording. This moment would be broadcast across thousands of worlds. Humanity's reputation, their future in galactic politics, everything hung on what happened next. Mirai stood frozen behind Do-hyun. She wanted to say something, to defend their species, but she knew it would only make things worse. This was Do-hyun's moment to handle. All eyes turned to the human diplomat. Some aliens expected him to shout back. Others thought he would try to argue, to defend humanity's achievements. A few expected him to beg, to plead for the Queen to reconsider. Do-hyun did none of these things. He stood there for a long moment, looking at Queen Valara. His expression was not angry. It was not hurt. It was something more powerful than either of those emotions. It was disappointment mixed with understanding, the look someone gives when they realize another person is smaller than they appeared. Slowly, deliberately, Do-hyun reached down and closed his data tablet. The soft click echoed in the silent chamber. He straightened his jacket. Then he turned toward the exit. Do-hyun, Mirai whispered urgently, grabbing his arm. What are you doing? We need this treaty. He gently removed her hand from his arm and kept walking. His footsteps were the only sound in the chamber. Behind him, Ji-won, the human intelligence officer, smiled slightly. She understood what was happening. She had worked with Do-hyun before and knew how his mind worked. Queen Valara was shocked. No one had ever simply walked away from her before. You dare turn your back on me? She called out, her voice sharp with anger. I am not finished speaking. Do-hyun stopped at the massive doors. He turned his head slightly, just enough to glance back at the queen. For a moment their eyes met. There was no hatred in Do-hyun's gaze, no anger. Just a quiet sadness that somehow cut deeper than any words could. Then he walked through the doors. They slid shut behind him with a whisper. The human delegation followed quickly. Mirai looked back at the chamber once, her face pale. Ji-won walked with her head high, proud of what had just happened. Inside the chamber, chaos erupted. Alien delegations began talking all at once. Some were shocked. Others were impressed. A few were frightened by the implications of what they had just witnessed. Queen Valara stood by her throne, her skin shifting through colors rapidly. She felt something she had not experienced in decades. Confusion. The human had not fought back. He had not defended his species. He had simply left. As if her opinion did not matter at all. As if the mighty Veltharan Empire did not matter at all. Ambassador Taeyang from Earth met Do-hyun in the hallway outside. That was either the bravest thing I have ever seen, the older man said quietly, or the most foolish. Do-hyun kept walking toward the human quarters. Sometimes, he said, they are the same thing. Behind them, the galaxy was about to learn a lesson it had forgotten. That dignity cannot be taken from someone who refuses to surrender it. That silence can be louder than any shout, and that sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is simply walk away. 2 weeks had passed since the incident at the Galactic Council. The footage of Do-hyun walking away from Queen Valara had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On every inhabited world, from the oldest civilizations to the newest colonies, people were talking about the human diplomat who had simply turned and left. Yoonji, a journalist for the Interstellar News Network, could not believe the response her story was getting. She had covered galactic politics for 15 years and had never seen anything create this much discussion. Her interview requests were backing up by the thousands. Everyone wanted to talk about what had happened. On the human colony world of New Beijing, people gathered in public squares to watch the footage again and again. Some cheered. Others worried that Do-hyun had just destroyed humanity's chances at a crucial treaty. But most felt something they had not felt in a long time when dealing with the older alien races. Pride. Queen Valara was not having a good 2 weeks. She sat in her private chambers on the Veltharan homeworld, watching the footage for what must have been the 100th time. Her closest advisor, Lady Asara, stood nearby, silent and patient. He looked at me with pity, Valara said quietly. Not anger. Not fear, pity. Lady Azara had known the queen since they were children. She chose her words carefully. Perhaps he saw something in that moment that you did not. Valara's skin flashed dark red. What could a human possibly see that I could not? Their entire civilization is younger than some of our buildings. But even as she said it, Valara knew something had changed. She had demanded that the Galactic Council censure humanity for disrespect. The Council had refused. Technically, Do-hyun had broken no laws. He had not insulted anyone. He had not made threats. He had simply exercised his right to leave a meeting. That was the problem. There was nothing Valara could do about it. Across the galaxy, in the halls of the Orinthian Republic, Chancellor Crix was having a very different conversation. He sat across from Ambassador Taeyang, the head of Earth's diplomatic corps, in a private meeting room. Your man Do-hyun did something remarkable, Crix said. The Orinthians were an old race too, though not as old as the Veltharans. They had watched the Veltharan Empire dominate galactic politics for thousands of years through intimidation and superior technology. He showed that dignity cannot be bullied away. Taeyang sipped his tea, waiting. He was an experienced diplomat and knew when someone was about to make an offer. The Arinthian Republic has the same minerals your people need, Crix continued. We would like to discuss trade. Fair trade between equals, Taeyang smiled. We would be very interested in that discussion. The news of the Arinthian trade talks spread quickly. Suddenly, other species started reaching out to humanity. Small civilizations, ones that the major powers usually ignored, began making contact with Earth's embassies. They had watched a young species refuse to be bullied, and they wanted to know more about these humans. On the exploration vessel Wanderer, Captain Hyunwoo was making his own discovery. His ship had been mapping unclaimed space near the galactic rim when they detected something unusual. A massive structure, dark and silent, floating in the void between stars. It is a space station, his science officer reported. Ancient, maybe 10,000 years old. The power systems are dead, but the hull is intact. Hyunwoo ordered his crew to investigate. What they found inside shocked them. The station contained technology that rivaled anything the Veltheran Empire had. Weapon systems, shield generators, and most importantly, manufacturing equipment that could produce the rare minerals humanity needed. Get me Ambassador Tai Yang, Hyunwoo said quietly. Tell him we just solved our resource problem. Back on Earth, Do-hyun sat in his small apartment drinking coffee and reading reports. Mirai had come to visit him. She still looked worried about what had happened at the council. Do you think we did the right thing? She asked. Walking away like that? Do-hyun set down his coffee cup. She wanted a fight. If I had argued with her, if I had defended humanity or shown anger, I would have been playing her game. We would have looked like the emotional children she accused us of being. But we needed that treaty, Mirai said. No, Do-hyun replied. We needed those minerals. The treaty was just one way to get them. Queen Valara thought we were desperate. She thought we would accept any insult just to get what we needed. But by walking away, I showed her something the Veltherans have not experienced in a very long time. What is that? Indifference, Do-hyun said. We do not need her approval. We do not need her acknowledgement of our worth. We will find our own way, just like we always have. Mirai considered this. You gambled with humanity's future. No, Do-hyun said firmly. I bet on it. We have spent our entire history being underestimated. It is actually our greatest advantage. While other species assumed we would fail, we succeeded. While they thought we would beg, we walked away. Every single time someone has counted us out, we have proven them wrong. In the Galactic Council chambers, an emergency session was taking place. The topic was not the Zenthral invasion that some species had warned about. It was not trade disputes or border conflicts. It was humanity. Several smaller civilizations had submitted a joint proposal. They wanted the Council to formally recognize that all species, regardless of age or power, should be treated with equal respect in Council proceedings. It was a direct response to how Queen Valara had treated Do-hyun. The vote was close, but it passed. The implications were enormous. For the first time in galactic history, the Council had officially stated that age and power did not grant the right to be disrespectful. Queen Valara watched the vote from her chambers. Her council of advisors stood around her, their faces grave. Your Majesty, one of them said carefully, this is becoming a problem. Several of our client states are reconsidering their alliances. They saw how the humans were treated and they are asking if we treat them the same way. Valara felt anger rising in her chest. We have protected them for centuries. Given them technology, defended their borders, brought them into civilization. Lady Azara spoke softly. Yes, but did we ever treat them as equals? Or did we treat them the way you treated that human diplomat? The chamber fell silent. No one dared to speak after that. On the mining colony of Velthera 7, something unexpected was happening. The colony administrator of Veltharan named Kesh received a message from his workers. They were requesting better living conditions and a voice in how the colony was managed. Kesh was confused. Why are you asking for this now? Nothing has changed. One of the workers, a young Veltharan who had been watching the galactic news, replied, Everything has changed. We saw how that human refused to accept disrespect. It made us think. Why do we accept being treated poorly just because the administrators are from the noble class? Similar conversations were happening across the Veltharan Empire. The footage of Do-hyun walking away had done something unexpected. It had made people think about dignity, respect, and worth. 3 months after the incident, Ji-won sent an encrypted report to Earth's intelligence headquarters. Her analysis was clear. The Veltharan Empire is experiencing internal pressure it has not faced in millennia. Queen Valara's public insult of humanity has become a symbol of everything people dislike about the old power structures. Meanwhile, humanity's quiet dignity has made us seem wise beyond our years. Political situation continues to develop in our favor. Do-hyun read the report with mixed feelings. He had not walked away to start a political revolution. He had done it because it was the right thing to do. But he could not deny that the results were remarkable. Sometimes, he said to himself, the universe rewards doing the right thing. Outside his window, a human transport ship lifted into the sky, heading for the new trade routes with the Arinthian Republic. Humanity was moving forward, with or without the Veltharan Empire's approval. 1 month had turned into 3 months since the day Do-hyun walked out of the council chambers. The galaxy was changing in ways that surprised everyone, especially Queen Valara. On the human research vessel Discovery, Seo-jun could barely contain his excitement. The young archaeologist had been studying ruins on a dead world near the galactic core when his team made an incredible discovery. Buried beneath centuries of dust and rock, they found something that should not exist. These are human genetic markers, Seo-jun told his team, staring at the data on his screen. But they are millions of years old. That is impossible. Humans only evolved 200,000 years ago. His colleague, another archaeologist named Bora, checked the readings again. The data is correct. Whatever we found here, it suggests that something very similar to human DNA existed long before Earth's humans evolved. The implications were staggering. Either human evolution was not unique to Earth or something much stranger was happening. Seo-jun immediately sent his findings to the Science Council on Earth, but he also published them in the galactic academic journals. Within days, scientists across the galaxy were discussing the discovery. Far from the research sites on the bridge of the exploration ship Wanderer, Captain Hyunwoo was dealing with his own surprise. His crew had found 3 more ancient stations similar to the first one. Each contained technology that humanity could use, and each was in unclaimed space. It is almost like someone left these here for us to find, Hyunwoo told his first officer. That is a strange thought, the officer replied. Why would anyone do that? Hyunwoo had no answer, but he could not shake the feeling that humanity's rapid discovery of useful technology was more than just luck. Back in the Veltharan Empire, Queen Valara was losing sleep. She stood in her private chambers late at night, watching the recording of Do-hyun walking away for what must have been the 1,000th time. Lady Azara had caught her doing this several times now. You are obsessed, Azara said gently, entering the chamber without being announced. Only she had that privilege. Valara did not deny it. I keep trying to understand. Everyone responds to power. With fear, with anger, with submission. But that human looked at me with pity, as if I was the primitive one. Azara sat down beside her oldest friend. Perhaps you were. Perhaps you still are. Valara's skin flashed angry red, but Azara continued. For 40,000 years, our civilization has stood on the achievements of our ancestors. We have become curators of museums, not builders of new things. We intimidate younger species because we fear their potential. Fear them? Valara laughed bitterly. They are children. Children grow up, Azara replied. And when they do, they often surpass their elders. That human walked away because he knows something we have forgotten. Dignity is not given by others. It is claimed by yourself. Before Valara could respond, an attendant entered nervously. Your Majesty, an elder from the Kaldorian people requests an audience. He says it is urgent. The Kaldorians were an ancient race, even older than the Veltharans. Once they had ruled half the galaxy. Now their empire was a shadow of its former glory, reduced to a handful of systems and a slowly declining population. Valara agreed to see the elder. He was small and bent with age, but his eyes were still sharp. He bowed respectfully, and Valara gestured for him to speak. Your Majesty, the Kaldorian said, I come with a warning. We were where you are now 3,000 years ago. We believed our age granted us wisdom, that our long history meant we were superior to younger species. Then those younger species stopped listening to us. They found their own paths. By the time we realized our arrogance had isolated us, it was too late. He paused, his old voice growing stronger. Now look at us. We are a memory of glory fading slowly into history. These humans remind me of what we once were. Hungry, innovative, unafraid. If you are wise, you will recognize that the human walking away from you was not weakness. It was the first step of them walking past you entirely. The words hit Velara like a physical blow. After the elder left, she sat in silence for a long time. In human space, things were moving quickly. Commander Young-Ho led a fleet of human ships toward a sector that the Veltharans claimed, but did not actually control. The sector contained valuable resources that humanity needed. 3 Veltharan patrol ships appeared on his sensors. Their commander sent a message. This sector belongs to the Veltharan Empire. Turn back immediately. Young-Ho checked the Galactic Council records on his display. According to Council law, this space is unclaimed. You have no more right to be here than we do. We will proceed. The Veltharan commander followed standard protocol. If you continue, we will fire warning shots. This was the moment where most species would back down. The Veltharans had the most powerful military in the galaxy. No one wanted to fight them. Young-Ho's response surprised everyone on both sides. Our shields are up. Our weapons are not powered. We are not here to fight, but we are going forward. The human ships continued their course. The Veltharan commander faced a terrible choice. If he fired on unarmed ships, his empire would be seen as the aggressor. The entire galaxy was watching. After what happened with Do-hyun, the Veltharans could not afford another public relations disaster. The Veltharan ships moved aside. The humans passed through. Young-Ho allowed himself a small smile. Sometimes the best weapon is the moral high ground. News of the incident spread quickly. Smaller species took note. The mighty Veltharan Empire had backed down from a confrontation with humans. Not because they were weak, but because they knew the galaxy was watching their behavior now. On Earth, Do-hyun read the reports about Young-Ho's fleet with interest. He was in a meeting with Mirai and Ambassador Taeyang when Ji-won joined them via video call. The political situation in the Veltharan Empire is becoming unstable, Ji-won reported. Queen Velara's advisors are split. Some want to take aggressive action to restore their reputation for strength. Others argue that any aggression would make things worse. Taeyang leaned back in his chair. What is the queen doing? That is the interesting part, Ji-won said. She's doing nothing. She watches the footage of Do-hyun walking away repeatedly, but she makes no decisions. It is like she is paralyzed. Do-hyun felt unexpected sympathy for the queen. She is trapped, he said quietly. Her entire culture is built on the idea that age and power grant superiority. Admitting she was wrong would shake the foundations of everything she believes. Good, Mirai said firmly. Let her struggle with it. But Do-hyun shook his head. No, a trapped animal is dangerous. If we push too hard, she might lash out in ways that hurt everyone, including us. 3 days later, something unexpected happened. A message arrived at Earth's embassy, sent through private channels. It was from Lady Azara, though she did not identify herself officially. The message was simple. The Queen needs a path to understanding. Walls built over millennia cannot fall in a day. Patience brings wisdom. Do-hyun read the message several times. Someone close to Queen Velara was reaching out, trying to build a bridge. He appreciated that, but he also knew that any reconciliation had to come from a position of mutual respect, not from humanity's pity or the Queen's desperation. In the Veltharan capital city, protests were happening for the first time in living memory. Young Veltharans marched through the streets carrying signs that read, "Respect all species and age does not grant superiority." The Queen's guards watched nervously but did not interfere. Velara had given orders that the protesters were not to be harmed. She watched from her palace window as her own people demanded change. Lady Azara stood beside her. They learned this from the humans, Velara said softly. No, Azara corrected gently. They learned this from their own hearts. The humans simply reminded them that dignity belongs to everyone. Velara's skin shifted through a dozen colors, reflecting her troubled emotions. She was the queen of the most powerful empire in the galaxy, but she was starting to realize that power without respect was empty. Across the galaxy, humanity continued to expand, explore, and build relationships with other species. They did not gloat about their diplomatic victory. They did not mock the Veltharans. They simply moved forward with quiet confidence. And that, more than anything else, showed Queen Velara what true strength looked like. The emergency klaxons woke Do-hyun from a deep sleep. He grabbed his communication device and saw dozens of urgent messages flooding in. Something terrible was happening. Within an hour, he was in the emergency session of the Galactic Council. Every major species had sent representatives. The massive display screens showed images that made his blood run cold. Entire colonies were going dark. Planets that had been home to billions were now silent. The Zenthral collective had come. Nobody had expected them. The Zenthral were a species from beyond the known galaxy, from the dark space between spiral arms. They were a hive mind, billions of individuals all connected into one vast intelligence, and they were hungry. They have destroyed 17 colony worlds in the past week. Chancellor Crix told the assembled delegates, his voice shaking. Our fleets are moving to intercept, but they are fast. Too fast. On the main screen, footage showed Zenthral ships. They looked like massive insects made of metal and bone, swarming around planets like locusts. Their weapons were devastating. Entire cities vanished in seconds. We need every species to commit their military forces, said the council speaker. This is not a time for politics or grudges. If we do not stop them, they will consume everything. One by one, the major powers pledged their fleets. The Veltheran Empire would send 500 warships. The Arinthian Republic offered 300. Smaller species contributed what they could. Then came the problem. A military analyst from the Talarian species stood to give a report. Her face was grave. The Zenthral use quantum disruption technology. It creates fields that cripple traditional faster-than-light drives. Our fleets can fight them, but we cannot get to the battle zones quickly enough. By the time we arrive, the colonies are already destroyed. The chamber fell into shocked silence. Faster-than-light travel was the foundation of galactic civilization. Without it, the galaxy was too big to defend. Ambassador Taeyang raised his hand. The Zenthral disruption affects traditional FTL drives, but humanity uses a different system. Our technology is newer, based on different principles. Would it be affected? The Talarian analyst pulled up data on her screen. Her eyes widened. No. The human FTL drives work on completely different physics. They would not be disrupted. Suddenly, every eye in the chamber turned to the human delegation. Chancellor Crix spoke first. Humanity's fleet is smaller than ours, but your ships can move freely while ours cannot. We need you to act as rapid response carriers. You can transport our troops and supplies to the combat zones. Taeyang stood slowly. This was the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. Humanity will help. Not because you are asking, but because it is the right thing to do. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is who we are. Relief flooded the chamber. Then Taeyang continued, and his words changed everything. However, we will not coordinate military operations with civilizations that view us as beneath them. We will not risk human lives under the command of those who have shown us disrespect. He looked directly at the Veltheran delegation. Queen Valara was not present, but her senior military commander was. If the Veltheran Empire wants human assistance, Taeyang said clearly, Queen Valara must request it personally. From diplomat Dohyun, the man she publicly insulted, the chamber erupted in chaos. The Veltheran commander stood, his crystalline skin flashing angry red. How dare you make demands during a crisis?
Millions are dying.
But Chancellor Crix surprised everyone by speaking up. The human ambassador is right. We reap what we sow. The Queen's pride created this situation. Let her pride solve it. Other delegates began nodding. The smaller species, especially those who had suffered similar treatment from the Veltherans, supported the human position. Back on the Veltharan homeworld, Queen Valara received the news from the council. She stood in her war room, surrounded by military advisors and government officials. They were arguing loudly. We cannot bow to human demands, one admiral said. It would show weakness. Our colonies are being destroyed, another advisor countered. 3 of our worlds have already fallen. Pride means nothing if our people are dead. Lady Azara stood quietly in the corner, watching her friend struggle with the impossible choice. Finally, when the arguing grew too loud, she spoke. What matters more, your pride or your people? The room fell silent. Everyone looked at Queen Valara. The Queen's skin shifted through a dozen colors. Anger, shame, fear, and something else. Something that might have been growth. On Earth, Dohyun received an encrypted message from Ambassador Taeyang. The Council has made our position clear. Queen Valara must decide. Whatever she chooses, humanity has already won the moral argument. Mirai sat with Dohyun in his apartment. Do you think she will come? I do not know, Do-hyun admitted. Her entire culture has no framework for this. They have never had to admit they were wrong, not in 40,000 years. What if she does not come? Mirai asked. What if she lets her pride destroy her own people? Do-hyun looked out the window at the city below. Then she will have taught the galaxy a valuable lesson about the price of arrogance. Either way, something important happens. There was a knock at his door. Do-hyun opened it to find Nari, a junior diplomatic officer he knew slightly. She looked nervous. Sir, I have been studying Veltharan psychology, Nari said quickly. I think I understand what is happening. The queen is not paralyzed by arrogance anymore. She is paralyzed by shame. She knows she was wrong, but her entire culture has no way for a monarch to admit that. If she apologizes, she looks weak. If she does not apologize, her people die. She is trapped. Do-hyun listened carefully. What do you suggest? Give her a way out, Nari said. Not an easy way, but a possible way. Let her approach this as a warrior facing a challenge, not as a ruler begging for forgiveness. The idea had merit. Do-hyun thought about it for a long time. 3 days later, he sent a message through official channels. It was addressed to Queen Valara personally. Your Majesty, I understand that cultural differences make this situation difficult. If you wish to discuss military cooperation between our peoples, I will meet with you. Not as a supplicant and a ruler, but as two individuals who want to stop innocent people from dying. The choice of how to approach that conversation is yours. The message was carefully worded. It offered respect without demanding apology. It gave her a path forward without forcing her to crawl. On the Veltharan homeworld, Queen Valara read the message alone in her chambers. Lady Azara had left her to make this decision by herself. Some choices a ruler had to make alone. Valara looked at herself in the mirror. Her crystalline skin shifted through colors she had not seen in years. Uncertainty, vulnerability, fear, but also something new. Determination. She had been a queen for 33 years. She had ruled an empire that spanned thousands of star systems. She had commanded fleets, negotiated treaties, and held the power of life and death over billions. But she had never done the hardest thing a leader could do. She had never admitted she was wrong. Valara made her decision. She sent a brief message to her staff. Prepare my personal shuttle. I am going to meet the human diplomat, alone. Her advisors were shocked. Your Majesty, you cannot go alone. It is not safe. It is not proper. Valara looked at them with a calmness she had not felt in months. If I am asking this human to treat me with respect, I must show him the same. I will not hide behind guards and ceremony. Not this time. As her shuttle prepared to launch, Valara felt something strange. For the first time in years, perhaps decades, she felt like she was doing something truly important. Not commanding, not demanding, not intimidating, but actually leading. The human diplomatic quarters on the council station were quiet when Queen Valara arrived. She wore simple robes, not her royal regalia. No guards accompanied her. No attendants. Just herself. The human security officer at the entrance looked shocked. Your Majesty, we were not expecting you. I am here to see Diplomat Do-hyun, Valara said. Her voice was steady, but her skin flickered with colors that showed her nervousness. Within minutes, Do-hyun appeared. He looked at the queen standing alone in the hallway and felt surprise. This was not how monarchs traveled. This was not how the mighty Veltharan Empire did anything. Your Majesty, he said, gesturing to a simple meeting room. Please come in. The room contained 2 chairs and a small table. Nothing fancy, no ceremony, just a space for 2 people to talk. They sat down facing each other. For a long moment, neither spoke. Valara's skin shifted through deep blues and purples. Do-hyun waited patiently. Finally, Valara spoke. I came to request your help. Our military needs human ships to fight the Zenthral. I know, Do-hyun replied quietly. The council made their position clear. Valara looked down at her hands. They were shaking slightly. Before I make that request officially, I need to say something else. When you walked away from me that day, I was furious. I thought you were insulting me, showing disrespect to my position and my empire. She paused, gathering courage. But you were not. You were showing me a mirror, and I did not like what I saw in it. Do-hyun remained silent, letting her speak. My civilization is 40,000 years old, Valara continued. We have achieved wonders. We built the stargates that connect the galaxy. We discovered the mathematics that make faster-than-light travel possible. We brought civilization to hundreds of species. Her skin darkened. But somewhere in those 40,000 years, we stopped growing. We became priests guarding ancient temples instead of architects building new ones. When I looked at humanity, I saw everything we have lost. Passion, hunger, the ability to adapt and change. And it terrified me. So I lashed out. Do-Hyun's expression softened slightly. Fear can make us do things we regret. Valara met his eyes. You walked away because you refused to let me define your worth. In doing so, you taught me something my own people could not. That true civilization is not measured in years, but in wisdom. And wisdom includes knowing when you are wrong. She took a deep breath. I was wrong. I insulted you, your people, and the principles I claim to uphold. I cannot take back those words. But I can ask not as a queen demanding obedience, but as one person to another. Will you help us? The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. Do-Hyun looked at the queen, seeing her truly for the first time. Not as an arrogant ruler, but as someone struggling to grow beyond the limitations of her culture. When I walked away, Do-Hyun finally said, it was not just about dignity. It was about setting a precedent. For too long, humanity has accepted being treated as lesser because we are young. But age does not grant superiority. It grants experience, and only if you learn from it. He stood and extended his hand, a human gesture of equals meeting. Humanity will help fight the Zenthral. Not because you asked, but because we choose to. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is who we are. Valara stared at his hand for a moment. In 40,000 years of Veltharan history, no monarch had ever performed the greeting gesture of another culture. It would mean acknowledging that culture as equal. She took his hand. Her crystalline skin glowed with soft golden light, a color that meant hope in Veltharan biology. But, Do-Hyun continued, his grip firm, when this is over, things change. No more young races being dismissed. No more ancient civilizations dictating terms through intimidation. We build something new together, or we each walk our own paths. Your choice. Valara nodded slowly. A new path, then, together. The war against the Zenthral lasted 3 months. It was the largest military operation in galactic history. Human ships with their unique FTL drives became the lifeline of the Allied forces. Captain Hyunwoo led human pilots in maneuvers that amazed the older races. Human tactics were risky and innovative, born from humanity's shorter but more intense history of warfare. They took chances that Veltharan commanders would never consider, and those risks often paid off. Commander Youngho's fleet protected Veltharan colonies with the same dedication they showed for human worlds. When a Zenthral assault broke through the defense lines around a Veltharan civilian station, Youngho's ships threw themselves into the breach. 50,000 Veltharan civilians survived because human soldiers chose to defend them. Queen Valara fought on the ground alongside her troops, something Veltharan royalty had not done in millennia. She watched human soldiers show both courage and compassion. When Zenthral prisoners were captured, the humans treated them with unexpected mercy, giving medical care even to enemies. One night, during a brief pause in the fighting, a human medic named Hana treated Valara's injuries from a close-range explosion. As she worked, Hana talked casually about her family back on Earth, about her hopes for the future. You are not afraid of me? Valara asked, surprised. Hana smiled. Why would I be? You bleed the same as anyone else. Pain does not care about how old your civilization is. It was such a simple observation, but it struck Valara deeply. In that moment, she understood what Do-Hyun had been trying to show her. That beneath all the ceremony, all the history, all the pride, they were just people, and people deserved respect regardless of their age or power. The final battle happened near the galactic core. The Zenthral had established a massive hive structure, and destroying it would cripple their invasion. Every species contributed ships to the assault. It was brutal and costly. Do-Hyun had insisted on being there, serving as a coordinator between human and Veltharan forces. He worked from the bridge of a human carrier, managing logistics and communication. When the hive structure finally exploded, the shockwave could be seen from a dozen systems away. The Zenthral, their coordination broken, retreated back into dark space. The Allied forces had won. 2 weeks later, a massive celebration was held at the Galactic Council Station. Representatives from every species attended. The chamber where Valara had once insulted Do-Hyun was now filled with hope and unity. Queen Valara stood to address the council. Her voice carried clearly through the chamber. Today we celebrate victory, but I want to talk about what made that victory possible. It was not strength. It was not ancient technology. It was unity. Unity that only happened because I learned a hard lesson. She paused, looking directly at Do-hyun. I learned that strength without humility is tyranny. That wisdom without growth is stagnation. I learned this from humanity, a species I once dismissed as primitive. I was wrong, and I am grateful for that wrongness because it taught me to be better. She took a breath. The Veltheron Empire formally proposes a new council charter, one where all civilizations, regardless of age or power, have equal voice, where respect is given freely, not earned through intimidation, where we build the future together, not as old and young, but as partners. The proposal passed with overwhelming support. The galaxy was changing. After the ceremony, Do-hyun and Queen Valara met one last time before he returned to Earth. They stood on an observation deck watching the stars. "Will you forgive me?" Valara asked quietly. Do-hyun smiled. "I already have. The question is, have you forgiven yourself?" Valara considered this. Her skin shifted to peaceful blue. "I am learning. You humans have a saying, better late than never. We also say it is never too late to start again," Do-hyun replied. "Even after 40,000 years." As he walked toward his transport ship, Valara called out, "Do-hyun, thank you. For walking away when you did. And for coming back when it mattered." He turned and bowed in the Veltheron style, his hand over his heart. "Thank you for being brave enough to walk toward understanding." 6 months later, the new Galactic Council Charter was formally signed. Earth and the Veltheron Empire signed their first true partnership treaty, built on respect and mutual benefit. Scientist Hana led a joint research project combining Veltheran knowledge with human innovation. They made breakthroughs that neither species could have achieved alone. Captain Hyunwoo commanded a mixed fleet of human and Veltheran ships, exploring regions of space that neither species had dared venture into before. The galaxy was different now, better, not because of weapons or technology, but because people learned to see each other clearly. And it all started the day a young human diplomat chose dignity over desperation, silence over spectacle, and walked away from a queen who thought she had all the answers. Because sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is refuse to accept disrespect, and the wisest thing someone can do is recognize when they have been wrong, and work to be better. In the end, that is what civilization really means. Not how long you have existed, but how much you continue to grow.